No. Okay.
Stop what you're doing. You were trying to stay there.
Hello, how are you
Hey,
all?
good. How are you, Terry?
I'm doing well. Was just checking
Fantastic.
out your our chats here for a moment. I'm gonna turn my phone off.
Oh, yeah, me too. Awesome. I'm psyched. This is going to be fantastic.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me hit the go live buttons and we'll roll.
Okay.
Live now. All right. I think we're live.
Awesome. Thanks for
There
having
we
me
are.
here.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, this is so cool. I like my brain, as soon as we started talking, I was like, oh, this is exactly this. Like my mission is helping people actually get outside more. And one of the things that keeps us inside is I got all these things I gotta do.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was a fantastic way to just kind of help people get outside. So, hey, Tiffany, I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us. I know there's more people coming in, but we're going to just dive in because I know like I've got questions for you. I know you've got a
Mm.
fantastic thing that you're going to show it. Like, we just better roll. So,
Awesome. Yes, let's get going. Thank you all for
awesome.
joining us today. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, this is great. All right, let's start with the easy stuff. Would you please introduce yourself, Terry?
Sure. My name is Teri Whitaker, and I am with Wellness Business Services. I started off as a virtual assistant in December of 2020 after having had about 20-ish years of administrative slash operations experience, picked up some marketing skills along the way, and just decided that I really wanted to be working for myself. And I had passion for health and wellness, still do, but I have since kind of branched out to help other industries as well. And then last year, I became certified director of operations and went through a very extensive program to do that from one of the best in the industry. And just because learning is a really important value of mine, just being a lifelong learner. And I really wanted to up level my skills and also what I was offering to businesses. Being a virtual assistant is fantastic. It's absolutely needed in a business. But in order to kind of provide that strategic element, because I'm quite analytical and strategic. And so in order to be able to offer those services to a business and really serve them at a higher capacity, that was my next step in my journey. So yeah, I
Wow.
like to hike and travel. And those are kind of some of my main hobbies. I love spending time with my family and friends. And so, yeah, that's kind of the basis.
That's fantastic. So you've got the analytical brain. I love this. So, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm not speaking personally or anything, but we have these crazy ideas.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh, I love these people. They have this problem. I can fix this problem. This is so awesome. Woo, let's go.
Yes.
And we need help.
Yes. I find that a lot of my clients that I work with are visionaries and they have big ideas, but they don't always know how to get from idea to bringing it to reality. And that's where I really come in. I've got a lot of project management skills and experience. I've managed projects up to a couple hundred, or excuse me, $100,000. I've done a couple of those and a ton of smaller projects, a ton, like
Yeah.
dozens and dozens. And so I really am good at spotting the gaps and planning. Like if somebody had told me when I was in high school, that you could make a career out of like planning and, list making and all of that stuff, I had no idea. Like virtual assistant, like I had no clue that it was actually a thing when I was in high school over 20 years ago, but it was very much in its infancy
Oh,
stages
sure.
and not widely known at
Yeah.
all. And
Right.
so, yeah, it's exciting to be able to use my gifts and talents and become kind of I'm wired, kind of the opposite of the visionary and the dreamer. And so together we make a really good, strong team.
That really does. I mean, so many of us here like, okay, well, I got this, like, how do I do this thing, right? Like, I don't want
Yes.
to do all the things, like, wait, there's tech involved, there's organization, there's lists. Like, we make
Yeah.
lists, but making the list and doing the list are a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, good, just find an implementer. I'm like, okay, where's the implementer store? Where's the person? Like, give it to me here,
The
right?
virtual assistant, I'm a director of operations slash business manager, and virtual assistant, and we'll get into what that is exactly. If you have heard that term, though, I feel like it is become much more widely known. And director of operations or online business manager, those are kind of used interchangeably a lot of times. That term is not as widely known, and it's kind of up and coming. A lot of companies or business owners think of like basically like a middle manager, which is essentially what I am, as well as then kind of a step up from that, like as far as like doing the strategy piece, doing strategic planning with clients. But they think that that is reserved for like a Fortune 5,000 company, the big corporations. And they don't realize that no, they can actually have that in their small business too, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
We're in a really amazing time where really whatever resources you need and whatever roles you need to fill, they're at your fingertips. And, it's just a matter of finding the right people.
That's incredible. It's amazing. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs have worked with a VA, so quote unquote, quote
Yes.
unquote, but it could be all kinds of weird stuff like, hey, I'm going to hire somebody from Fiverr to help me with this or that, like little tasks, like tiny tasks.
Yes.
And they'll build themselves as a VA, but it's not really, it could just be like, here's a little tiny project that I don't feel like I want, or it didn't work, or I can't do it, or whatever like that. Or a lot of people are like, oh, hire a VA from the Philippines. They work
Mhm.
cheap, they do great work, all this. Eh, I've done it before, but it's so hard. It's like if I have to think through all the things, here's all the things I need. Here's how to go do them. I might as well just do them, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know,
And
eh,
to kind of backtrack a little bit, just for anybody that doesn't know what a virtual assistant is, in case that is a new term to you, it's basically somebody that is working remotely. They are a contractor. They are not an employee of your business, and they are doing typically admin work. That's historically where the term came from. However, over the decades, that has morphed into a lot of other services. I mean, it could be a graphic designer, a copywriter, all sorts of things. Now, oftentimes those individuals find that they make more money when they call themselves a copywriter or a graphic designer, especially if they're doing more than using Canva. They know how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and so on. And so, but it still can encompass those roles. So, but typically you're looking at an admin role, and sometimes people think of admins as like, very antiquated, like, oh, they go get the coffee, they like,
I've had that
well,
job.
you know, like, or they schedule meetings and they manage my email and that's all they can do.
Right.
Sure, they can do those things, but they can also do so much more. They can do project management. Oftentimes, they're very skilled at taking on additional tasks. They really can be your right hand. Michael Hyatt, I haven't read this book, but I've followed him for a while. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has a book on, hiring an executive assistant, and a virtual assistant can fill that role, can be more of a entry level administrative role in your business, but also can serve in an executive assistant capacity where they really are your right hand. I've heard some executives say kind of jokingly, like, I just do what I'm told to do by my admin, and while that might sound confining, especially to visionaries, there's actually a lot of freedom in it
Oh yeah.
because they are taking off so much of your plate, you know, and I even there is a mentor and a well-known person in the executive assistant world that does a lot of training. Her magazine used to be called Executive Secretary Magazine. They've since rebranded it. Lucy is her first name. I think her last name is pronounced Brazier. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but she put out a letter years ago to CEOs and basically said, like, you're really underutilizing your administrative staff. Think about how much you charge clients per hour. Would you pay an admin that same rate to work on your email, to schedule meetings? No, that doesn't generally
Right.
make sense, because generally you as a CEO are charging 100, 200 plus whatever, an hour. And so it, but it's a control thing sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a trust thing. It's a fear thing, which I
Oh,
completely empathize. I can't say that word right now.
you feel for
Empathize
them.
with, and understand, because this business is your baby. You
Yeah,
started this. You have poured your heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears into it. But if you find the right person and you build trust over time, you really can delegate those things that they are uniquely gifted to do, that you probably can do, but that is not the best and highest use of your time.
that's for sure.
Whereas you can be out, recruiting clients, or even if you have somebody that does sales on your team, but you need to be serving the clients, you need to be the face of the brand oftentimes, and doing some marketing, even if you have somebody managing social media, you still have to record some videos or do some lives, you know. And so there really is a focus, and a peace, and a relief. And like you were just talking about, that we can get outside more when we free up our time. And it really does come down to, if you hire the right person, you get your time back. You get, your quality of life back, hopefully, if you've lost it along the way, which oftentimes happens.
It does.
If you're on the edge of burnout, then it's time to make some changes. And this very well could be your next right step, is to hire a
That's
virtual assistant.
that's huge. And it's, thinking of it from from the standpoint of project management, as opposed to just virtual assistant. Like, I think everybody, or at least I know I have had in my head, okay, it's, they're going to write some crappy articles or handle my email or whatever. Or if I want them to do more, I'm gonna have to show them everything and how to,
Mhm.
but having that whole reframe, that's huge. This is now somebody who's like a strategic partner, where you can like you could, the owner can now cherry pick what they actually are really good at and what they love doing.
Mhm.
Maybe find a home for the other stuff. It has to get done, but it doesn't have to get done by us.
Yes.
So a
Yeah.
question came in from Sean McCool, who's a fantastic guy. And so he was asking about like tech things like Zapier integration, Zapier. I'm never sure how to say that.
I know it's
The one with the Z, right? Like that type of thing. Is that something that's,
oh, you froze.
oh,
Sorry, you froze.
oh,
So
sorry, yeah,
yeah,
I
is
do freeze.
Zapier, sorry, is Zapier what?
Is stuff like that, tech integrations like that, like Zapier, is that something that like you personally, or is that a thing that now that a lot of virtual assistants can do?
Yes. So a tech virtual assistant is what you would be looking for, or director of operations. So oftentimes, like, I've set up automations in Kartra, done launch management, overseen, and even done some of the implementation myself, as far as setting up those automations, setting up marketing funnels, or sales funnels. And yes, so a tech virtual assistant is really what you would want.
That's excellent. So, because it's now, it used to be people would have a certain business, it was contained. It was like, okay, here's what we do. And now the tech is just expanding constantly. And you're like, oh, well, all right, we got to use this. And how do you go about learning like new things? So somebody's like, oh, I want a funnel built in this system, or I want my newsletter in Beehive or whatever, how
Mhm.
is that for you? Your brain must just be constantly absorbing and going through training and, how does that happen?
Yes. So on the Colby A, I'm a high fact finder. So, in fact, that's my highest rating, or, mark on that test, on that personality test. And so I'm constantly watching YouTube videos, learning, going through certification programs. I mean, I just am like a sponge and just absorbing stuff all the time. Um, the nice thing is that once you learn one email platform, for example, a lot of them are built similarly. So as far as like functionality goes, so it's a matter of finding, okay, well, where in this particular tool is this, piece of functionality that I need, that I know that ConvertKit has or Kartra has to send out emails or whatever, MailChimp. And so that's part of it. It becomes kind of a transferable skill. Um, and some of it's just literally diving in. A lot of these tools either have some sort of amazing training platform, like ClickUp has a certification program, which I'm planning on going through in the near future, or they have a very robust like training lab or some sort of resource on their website where you can type in whatever you're looking for and find it out, and I don't know, I just tend to pick up tech tools pretty quickly. It's just something I've done. I've learned so many different databases over the course of my career. And so it just a lot of times diving in, looking around and going, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense here. And then I'm going to go here. And especially when you already know like what the flow, especially say we're talking about a marketing funnel, I know what the flow should be. It's just a matter of customizing it for what the client wants and needs, because everybody wants their system to work a little bit different, their process to work a little bit different.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and YouTube has so many resources.
YouTube
Like,
University, right?
yeah, you can pretty much find out anything on YouTube,
So this is so great. So, and I'm so glad you brought up the Colby thing. So I know a lot of us, I know I am like quick start off the charts. Like,
Yeah.
probably a lot of
Visionary.
your clients are quick start off the
Yes.
chart, visionary or quick start, right? We're like, and it's the type of thing where we can do a task. It's okay. We can do a task, but it needs to be, I need to be able to complete it quickly before I either lose interest, find a shiny object, whatever like that. And so you enjoy getting in, digging into these tools, going through the tutorials, getting the training. That sounds like a seventh circle of hell for a lot of us. We're just like, no, please make it stop.
Yes.
So that is a wonderful thing. So that might be a great tip too, is, people want to, have somebody go through a Colby, because I think your profile on Colby is perfect for what you're doing. That's outstanding. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
And
Sean, let me know if I didn't get enough answer for you, but I think that was good. We'll wait for
yeah,
that. There's a lag.
no
But
worries.
yeah, so what did you so YouTube University, or your brain is primed to just soak this stuff up, and that's fantastic in there. Oh, he says that's good. Great. Awesome. What would you say, like, do you have some guidance? Like, how would you recommend somebody go about finding and hiring a VA to work with them?
Yeah, so the first step is really writing a detailed job description, emphasis on the word detailed. And I realize as quick starts, this may not be your favorite thing to do, but I promise you, you will save so much time, money, and heartache if you will kind of tie yourself down a little bit and do this. It will pay literal dividends in your business if you do this well. So, because I find, I can't tell you how many posts I've seen in Facebook groups that are literally like 1 to 4 sentences, and they're trying to hire, hey, you know, like send me your virtual assistant recommendations. And they're just trying to put out feelers, which in theory sounds good, but then that oftentimes ends up like, oh, well, I'm a virtual assistant. And you get a boatload of responses. And then you have to go and be proactive and go to those people's social media accounts or websites and do your due diligence and search them out, where as opposed to them providing information to you. Or
Huge
if they're,
difference, guys. Are you well, let's just have a pause. We've all seen those, ads where like they'll even get snarky with it. Like, well, the right person will know exactly how to do this job. And you're like, okay, what do you need?
yeah,
We
I
all do
actually,
it, and it's laziness because or may not even be laziness. It's a matter of like, I don't know, like I would need them to, I don't even know what I need them to do. I just need the help.
Yeah. Well, and that's, valid, but that's why, you need to sit down and think about that because nobody knows your business like you do,
Exactly.
and so if you can't communicate what you need, then how can somebody come in and help you? No one is a mind reader, unfortunately,
Right.
you know,
Darn.
and
Right.
in fact, I just saw a reel last night of a company that was hiring. It literally said, "We are hiring." It was like a restaurant. Um, did not even say what they are hiring for at all. And it said, "Send your resume to here or come in and apply." Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to be filtering through a bunch of resumes that have nothing to do with what you want to hire for. And this is the type of thing I'm seeing. It's not detailed enough, or they may say what they want, like what type of role, but then there's hardly any detail to go with it. And you are trying to find a needle in a haystack, if even that. Like that, it might even be a stretch to say that when you do that. So
You wouldn't recognize the needle, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
like you're looking for a needle in the haystack, but you don't even know what the needle looks like. How are you going to possibly recognize it?
Exactly. So here are some things to include in a job description. Okay. Pay. Now, some people might recoil at that because a lot of people, especially if maybe you're middle-aged-ish, you have been taught one, don't talk about money in the beginning, or two, like that's just not kosher and okay to do that. But the fact of the matter is, there are laws that states are passing, in the United States at least, some, that require you to disclose that up front. And even if your state does not, you are doing yourself a huge favor and the person that is applying for the role that you're hiring for. You're doing them a huge favor if you will disclose that up front.
Mhm.
Because if you are paying $30 an hour, let's say, and let's say somebody charges 60 an hour. Well, do you really want to take the time? I mean, they're taking time to send you their resume or apply in some fashion. Then you are taking your time to review that. Then you reach out to them and you schedule an appointment. And then you go through, say, an hour interview. And then you find out, oh, we're on two different planets.
Yeah, yeah.
You have wasted easily probably 2 hours, if
Of
not
your
more.
own and theirs too, you know?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
crazy.
theirs.
Yeah.
And so if you can kind of rewire how you've been taught, and reframe it, you really will do everyone a favor and you will get a better applicant, a better fit if you'll disclose that. So that's just one thing.
Mhm. That's amazing.
And one thing too is you don't want to be rehiring, say, in 3 to 6 months, because somebody's like, well, okay, I guess I'll work for that, but that's not really what they want.
Mhm.
And then they're gone in a few months
And
because
then you
it
got to
wasn't
do the
really
whole thing
a
again. Yeah.
fit, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to include who they're going to report to. Is it going to be you? Is there a manager on your team? Who are they reporting to? Um, and it's not, you know, some people may kind of like, oh, I don't want to run my business like corporate, because we all left that for a reason. But you need to have some sort of reporting structure. Who do I go to if I'm, a director of operations and I have a question? I'm going to go to the CEO. Who do I go to if I have a question, a problem, whatever? The number of hours needed per week or per month. That's important. Again, you don't want to be hiring somebody that doesn't have the capacity to do this job. Now, if you're in the US, you can't hire what some people call unicorn virtual assistant that does all the things and basically serves as like a full-time employee without being classified as an employee. There are laws against that. You can get massive fines for doing that. So please be aware of that and just stick to part-time, or, if it's time for you to hire an employee, you really need full-time help, then that might be the route that you go. Another thing to include in your job description is the company description. What do you do? include a little bio about yourself and include the company values. Oftentimes this will come from yourself, especially if you're a solopreneur, but you want to find a great fit, obviously. And if you guys are on two different spectrums as far as values go, and especially depending upon what your business does and who you serve, there may need to be very close alignment. There always needs to be close alignment, but it may be even more important depending upon what you do. And then include the type of person that you're looking for, their strengths, their values, mention values. But, it's good to kind of bullet point out these things, because we tend to scan, everybody scans. And so, really try to make the formatting too also, something that's easily readable.
Oh yeah. I've seen so many that are like this solid block of text. And I'm like, I can't even like, no, I
Yes.
can't even possibly wade through that.
Yes, I'm a fan of like having the at the top, just kind of a little segue, but I am a fan of, and the way I was taught to do it in my certification program is pull out the most important pieces and put them at the top in a very quick bulleted summary, not even full sentences, pay, company name, title, and so on, the really important stuff, the scheduling, which, as a contractor, their hours can't be dictated, but if you need them during, to be available during certain hours, it is okay to say like, hey, I need somebody that's available, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's okay to say that. So some other things that often get left out are some in the detailed description of the duties. Also tie those job duties to KRAs or key results areas. So basically in doing that, you're saying, what does success look like in 30, 60, and 90 days? Why is this particular job duty important in the grand scheme of things?
Oh, yeah.
And that gets left out for sure. And as someone that you may be hiring somebody that's really impact driven. They like to make a difference in the world, in the business, in the people that they're helping, your customers, and so that especially is another reason to include that, because you're going to attract somebody that's going to see, oh, okay, this is why that is important. This piece of my job is important because this is the bigger picture and how it contributes. You need to also put in there, how do you want people to respond to this job description, which seems obvious, but some things to consider are, do you want them to email you their resume? Now, there is a little bit of a sticking point with some virtual assistants. They kind of get upset when you tell them, send me your resume. They're like, I'm not an employee anymore. And I get that. But to me, I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's just an easy way for me to tell you what my background is,
Oh, sure.
and for you to get a sense of who I am, And so do you want them to email their resume to you? Do you want them to email? Some virtual assistants will have kind of a one sheet that gives a brief bio of themselves and the services that they offer, a little bit about their background. So you could request kind of a one sheet summary, or you can set up an application and then have everybody fill out the application. So that's another option. Now, I do prefer the application just because we all can have inherent biases. We don't necessarily mean to, but it can help kind of give a level playing field to, everybody applying.
Yeah. So
because
things like if somebody's sending their resume and you don't like their font, you might not like notice like, I don't like their font, or they used Comic Sans. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
then you'd know why. But if it just kind of rubbed you the wrong way, you might not see it the same way, or the colors of it, and if it was on an application, then it's all uniform, right? So
right.
that
Now,
makes a
if
lot
you're
of sense.
hiring for a graphic designer, seeing, something pretty that they've created like a resume, that's important. But for an admin position, that's probably going to be much less important, because they probably won't be designing a whole lot of things for you, or if they do, it'll be minimal. So, and also another thing that I see oftentimes is people trying to cram too many things into one role.
Uh-huh.
You really do need to take the time to hire separate people. A person that designs well is going to have a different skill set and different mindset than somebody that is analytical and is going to
Mm.
manage your projects.
Yeah.
Are there people that can do both? Absolutely. But trying to find those people is harder.
Mm.
And more than likely, they're going to be a little bit better at one than the other. And
Sure.
so you will do your business and your customers a great service if you will keep those roles separate.
That makes a lot of sense. One more question on the application. Is there like a sweet spot for how many questions? Like, I think everybody probably has filled out some sort of application where like 4 hours later, you're still working on this thing, like, is there, do you have any guidance on that or how long it should take somebody to complete or, what's reasonable?
Yeah, I definitely, it wouldn't hurt to build the application and then go fill it out yourself. And if it
Mhm.
takes more than 30 minutes, I definitely would shorten it. If anything, like I've said with, Facebook posts that I've seen when people are trying to hire, they're not, asking enough. So I would say, try to stick to 30-ish questions, assuming some will be filled out faster, some will
Mhm.
take a little bit longer. Um, but two, you can always gather more details in the interview. You're trying to get through this initial screening of who do I interview, and narrow it down because especially in today's economy with so many layoffs happening and the sales cycle taking longer in businesses, is taking longer to find clients, then you're probably going to be inundated even more
Mm.
than 6 months ago, or a year ago. You might literally end up with 1,000+ applicants, and good grief, you're going to blow up your inbox if you go that route. So it is
Yeah.
something to consider.
Oh, that's excellent. And you should respond to everybody or?
It's generally not feasible to respond to everybody,
Mm.
especially if you've gotten hundreds or more of applicants. What you can do is, once you've whittled it down, you've interviewed, you go through a couple of rounds of interviews, at least have the decency and take the time to respond, email the people that you interviewed and say, hey, I've decided to go a different direction, or hey, I want to book another interview with you, you know? And I know it's hard to let people down and to be like, sorry, this wasn't the right fit, or however you choose to phrase it.
Mhm.
But, it's really nice to not be wondering on the other end of it, like, whatever happened to that? Did I get it? Not? I guess I didn't
Uh,
get it because I didn't hear anything, you know? And meanwhile, they are applying for other things, or they've decided to put their applying on hold
mm,
because they're waiting to hear from you, hoping to hear from you. So try
yeah,
to email the people that you interview and give them a yes or a no.
that's fair. I mean, you're not going to interview 1,000. Like,
Yes. Yes. One thing that I find that is really important to think about that I think gets overlooked is that CEOs do not and entrepreneurs do not realize and they don't quantify how much time and money it takes to go through the hiring process and then the training process. We are literally talking about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. And so it's really important to get the right person, and there could be a handful of people that could be the right person.
Mhm.
So it's not like we're looking for one right person, you're looking for a right person,
Mm.
but it would be really good for you as you go through this process to track how much time you spend on this, and or how much, money that equates to. Like, how many hours did it take my VA to get up to speed? Say it takes 3 months. How many hours did they work in 3 months, and how much did I pay them in that time? That's how much time it took for me to train. Then you add in the
Mhm.
hiring piece of it, because when you have that number before you, it's a bit of a gut punch, honestly. It's like an aha moment, and, it really instills in you the importance of, oh, okay, well, let me go back and revise this job description so it's better this time now that I'm hiring again, for this same role. or
hmm
I need to actually put a job description together in the first place because, now I know how much this cost me. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Okay. And I had interrupted you, so let's keep going.
no, you're fine. And yeah, any questions or anything that have popped up?
Yeah, we're just in the chat, people are talking about like that time suck on this. It can be it's I think it's almost like one of you were saying, like keep track of how long it took you. It's
Mhm.
one of those things where you need to know, but you don't want to know because it's
Yeah.
so just like, oh gosh, And then it didn't work and I had to do it again 4 weeks
Yes.
later. And
I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to take you around 20 hours minimum to
mhm.
go through the hiring process
Yeah,
alone. That's
yeah,
not training, obviously.
right,
Um,
right. Oh my.
yeah. And you had talked about hiring virtual assistants, like say from the Philippines or whatever. So that is something that I want to bring up because that is something that, our minds can go to because it's, an inexpensive way to hire. So there are a few considerations there. Like you had mentioned, there can be, a issue of like, I literally have to lay this out step by step, which in training to a point, sure, it's good to have like documented procedures so that you can go, here you go, virtual assistant, take a look at this. I mean, we can have a quick chat afterwards. We'll discuss what questions you have. I can walk you through it, but you don't have to literally like step by step, really lay it
Mhm.
out like as much. So that, there can be a language barrier sometimes. Um,
Even with
and
them speaking English, like they do speak great English, but it's not American. It's not idiomatic. There can still be a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation. So,
yeah, and I mean, I've worked with somebody that had fantastic English, fantastic,
mhm,
so it really can kind of be in a spectrum. And so depending upon what you're hiring for, having fantastic English as like if they were a native speaker, that might be more or less important. Um, I mean, it's my own personal opinion that we really ought to be paying people what the service is worth, and it shouldn't be based upon where they live or, where they go to sleep at night.
mhm,
Now I do realize that their cost of living is a whole lot less in, say, India and the Philippines than in the US. That's a legit point, but they're still providing your business the same service. And if you found
mhm.
the right virtual assistant overseas, the same level of service
Yeah,
as somebody that you could have hired in the US, Canada, wherever.
for sure.
Um, so if you are a solopreneur, and especially in this economy, if you are really struggling financially and you are on the verge of burnout and you are like, legit, my business cannot afford to pay somebody 30, 60, whatever dollars an hour, then I haven't heard as much lately, but it used to be $3 to $5 per hour was kind of what people would talk about hiring somebody overseas. Um, but if they are asking, they being the virtual assistant, if they are asking for that, offer to pay them a little bit more. Like,
Mhm.
who wouldn't love a client that says, you know what? Nope, sorry. I'm going to pay you more than you asked for. You're going to get loyalty, and you're not doing this necessarily for ulterior motives. I feel like it's just a matter of character and integrity, but you are going to get somebody that's going to be more loyal to your business
Yeah,
because you were an amazing human being to them, you know, and then you think about the impact that you are making in their life. What paying them an American wage or, getting them closer to that, as your business grows, maybe you pay them, maybe start off at like say $10 an hour, $12 an hour, and then you increase as your business grows. The difference that you're going to make in that person's life, their family, is going to be monumental.
yeah.
And that's probably going to overflow to their extended family and even their community because they're
Mm,
going to be spending more money in their community, and they may then hire virtual assistants to support their business,
true.
and you really can have a massive impact by paying one person an American wage, so that is
I,
something
wait,
to
wait, wait, wait.
consider.
I love the way you're thinking about this. I love that ripple effect. When I hear somebody else I think about that kind of stuff. Like a lot of people think, some people don't think about that. But when somebody does, that lights me up. Like that is huge what you've just said. And the same thing happens for, hiring somebody who's US as
Yes.
well. I mean, anywhere, like this is an opportunity. We all become entrepreneurs in a sense to make a mark in the world, to make the world a better place.
Hmm.
This is one great way.
Absolutely.
This is one fantastic way. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, yeah, I love the dialogue back and forth and getting your feedback. Yeah. Um, so that's something to consider, I would say probably the going rate is more in the $5 to $8 an hour kind of overseas right now. But if you can take a look at your finances, consult your bookkeeper, whatever you need to do. But if you can start somebody off at $10 an hour, it really will go a long ways for both sides, both parties.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, um, and one thing to consider too, a lot of times when people are thinking about hiring somebody for $3 to $5 an hour, it's, an income issue. They're not getting enough revenue into the business. So that's obviously something that needs to be addressed separately. Or sometimes it's a money mindset issue. And if you feel like it could be a money mindset issue, you might want to consult with a mindset coach, a business coach, or maybe even a therapist. We all come from somewhere, we all grew up either poor, middle class, upper class, whatever. We all come with our own stuff to our business, and sometimes that takes, some unraveling. You may have heard the saying that, being an entrepreneur is one of the biggest personal growth journeys that you're going to take. And it's true. And so this is perhaps one of those areas where some personal growth could take place.
For sure. That's a great advice.
So, practically speaking, where do you find a virtual assistant? So you can go with a virtual assistant agency. There are plenty of them around. You can check with your network, maybe your family, friends, former coworkers, colleagues, vendors that you're doing business with. You can search Google or social media for a virtual assistant, or even get really specific and put in your industry, you're in a virtual assistant, like manufacturing virtual assistant or outdoor industry virtual assistant or whatever. You can look in Facebook groups. There are some that are specific to virtual assistants. There are some that are for remote workers, so a little bit broader, but still a lot of those virtual assistants can be in those groups. Or you can even work with a director of operations to hire a virtual assistant for you. So that's something that I do, kind of doing most of the legwork for you, but still you being involved in the process and key points and you getting to decide who you hire, because you know your business best, and it really should be your decision because it's your business. So some pros and cons of using a virtual assistant agency, just some things to think about. So some pros can be, it saves you, the business owner, time because you're outsourcing that. And possibly sometimes they will train the virtual assistant. So you can perhaps get somebody that's a little bit more skilled that way. They probably have a pool of applicants if you're in a hurry to hire. And virtual assistants don't have to market to find clients. So they're joining the agency knowing that they're likely going to get matched up with a client. So some cons of using an agency is that you may or may not get a great values fit. Sometimes they will try to match you up with somebody that has similar values, but it's just kind of a toss up. It may not happen. They may try to give you any team member in their pool that has the skills that you're hiring for. So you may get the skills, but you may not get the values match. It can be expensive for business owners to go this route because generally you're going to pay more per hour than if you had hired somebody yourself. And over the long term, that can be a huge, huge difference.
Because you're continuing to pay the agency, right? As long as you're working with that person.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be, you want it to be a long-term thing, but then you're like, oh, this is getting expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
if you're looking for affordable help and you really need to consider the budget maybe a little bit more than other times in your business, that's something to keep in mind for sure. Another piece of that pay is that typically what you're paying the agency is not what the virtual assistant is getting paid. The virtual assistant is getting a smaller cut of what you are paying. So they're not setting their rate necessarily. Typically, virtual assistants are going to tell you, I charge X dollars per hour or X dollars per month if it's on retainer ongoing. And because they could have a kind of a short-term freelancer mindset, you could have some higher turnover.
Sure.
And even with the pay, with them getting paid less, there could be higher turnover because of that as well.
Very smart.
Yeah. So those are some hows to, to find a virtual assistant, what a virtual assistant is, and things to consider, job description being a huge piece of that, really taking time, even if you've got to set a timer for 10, 15 minutes, tie yourself down, make yourself do it, go take a break, go outside, go for a walk, whatever, go dig in your garden, do something, and then come back to it, do it, another 15 minutes or whatever. You really will save yourself a lot of time and heartache in not hiring the wrong person.
That's for sure. So the thing is, so like the idea of sitting down, I mean, this will sound crazy, but even the idea of sitting down and writing like a thorough job description, like, and having it come out right, like that can seem really daunting.
Yeah,
And it could be a time suck, like, okay, I could just go spend 4 hours doing this thing and it still could stink. Is there any advice? Like, is there anything you can help with on that? Like, you know how to do this. You've seen how to do it. You're like, this like the back of your head. I bet that you could look at a job description and go, all right, fix this, this, this. Like, is that something you
absolutely.
do?
Yes. And I've even done this in my corporate days, and I call it corporate. I kind of lump it all in. I worked for a nonprofit for about 10 years. And I did kind of more corporate for-profit things prior to that. But I've been involved in quite a bit of hiring, and training too, especially. And so, yes, for your audience here, I am launching a new service at a very low cost price because I want to help you guys out. So I will review and edit your job description for $47. So you
That's it.
draft
Wait,
the,
what? Say that again. You'll do
yes.
what?
So you will write out your detailed job description. I will review and edit it because I'm great at spotting gaps and seeing, okay, well, they didn't include this, and oh, we could reword this and it will bring more clarity and help you find a better fit. I've been trained by one of the best in the industry. My mentor from my certification program did HR for a Fortune 150 company. So this is her sweet spot. And so all of the training was amazing, but this part especially was fantastic. I've got a great template that I work off of, and then just my own experience that I bring into it as well.
Huge.
So
So this could take them normally, like, I'm still stuck on this for $47, right? What? Like, it's like I'm giving you $47 and I'm getting like 10 times that back because,
absolutely.
just start with something, draft it, and you can, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll meet on Zoom for 15 minutes. We'll go over the highlights of what I changed, and you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions that you want. And I'll give you the final version back. Now, there are going to be things potentially that I don't know. And so I may say, you need to go back and add, like, say we've got a part of the job description is I want an admin to schedule calendar appointments. Well, maybe you didn't, like we talked about, tying those back to some KRAs, some key results areas. Maybe you didn't tie it back to why that's important. And so I may, which coming from an admin background, I can fill that in. But there may be instances where I don't know how exactly that fits into the big picture of your specific business. So I may tell you, hey, add this in, tie this into the big picture. So in most cases, you will have a final version, but there may be a couple of points where you just go back in, take 10, 15 minutes after we're done and plug in a, very minor points that are important, but it's just not going to be real time consuming. So, yeah, so we're going to work, and really, I don't normally offer my services at this low of a price, but I love the outdoor community and I, want to help out and be of service, especially I know this is a tough time for a lot of entrepreneurs. So, we can put that link
Yeah,
in the
do you have a link?
comments.
That would be great. That'd be great. And I'll put it also, I'll do a little, we'll post the replay. There's going to be in the newsletter, so they'll see it. But guys, and I would imagine you can only do this for a certain number of people because you get 1,000 people.
Yeah, my time is limited. But yeah, I do have some time available to do this. And now if you are kind of on the opposite end of like, hey, I just do not want to DIY this. I don't want to tie myself down. I mean, I will come up with a job description with you. Like I do hiring as a service. So we would have a meeting and talk in detail. What do you need? What do you want in this role? I will draft the job description. You get to review it and say, yep, that's fantastic, or no, I want some changes made. And then I will go out and post it on about 3 to 5 different places, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, and the like. And then I will screen all the applicants, creating the application myself as well. You'll have access to all of the resumes, the applications, like all of the stuff. And then I will do interviews. I'll do a couple rounds of interviews, and you can be involved in both rounds if you want, or if you just want to be involved in the final round, that's great and fine too. In fact, I really encourage business owners to get involved in that final round. And then you get to pick who you want to hire. And then I will communicate with the person and say, hey, we're going to bring you on board. And then I stay involved in the next 30 days or so to make sure things are going well. So I just have a few check-ins at that point. Normally I charge $1,500 for this. For this group, I'm going to offer this for $800.
Oh my goodness. All right. Put the link in the chat for this one and I'll put it over in Facebook for you. That's amazing. Sure.
And like I said, it takes about, at minimum, about 20 hours to go through this process for me. Sometimes a little bit more. It depends upon what the role is. But also you can use this link for really just inquiring about, any services that I offer, and just letting me know about your business. And I have services for all stages of business. I mean, my before I created this $47 job description review, I've got a $99 kind of a pick my brain session. So we can talk about strategy. If you're thinking about launching a new service, for example, and you're like, hey, I'm not sure if I should launch this service or this one, we can kind of flesh those details out a little bit. Or if you're having a challenge with a team member and you're like, don't really know how to handle this. This is new to me. Or maybe this particular instance is just really tricky for some reason. We can talk about those types of things. I've even done trainings for people. I taught somebody how to use Google Forms in one of these sessions. So it really can be kind of what you need it to be type of a session, but that normally is my lowest cost offer. But then I, have services like we've talked about hiring today. I do retainer work for, ongoing director of operations, kind of serving as a middle manager. Usually the person that is right for is somebody that's already got a team established, a team for me to manage. And then I'm coming in and doing strategic planning with you and, kind of all encompassing or really what you need it to be.
That's amazing. So I would imagine those spots are very limited because there's only one of you.
Yes. Yes. and in the near future, as we get a little bit closer to the end of the year, I'll be doing a group online strategic planning workshop. So I do strategic planning by itself, but in order to make it a little bit more economical for people and try to do a different format, doing it in a group can be fun, just to have that interaction with people and, give people a chance to network too. So
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Teri, this is fantastic. So I know some of the people who are going to be listening to this, we all know somebody named Teresa. I'm not going to say her last name. I love Teresa. I've had the opportunity to work with. She's like you, and I know like everybody has always begged her, please clone yourself. Please, do you have a twin? Do you have a like guys, we found it.
Well, thank
And
you.
the thing, it's like you're capable of stuff, you're poised, you know these things, like you're systematized and gentle in your, in your this is an amazing thing. Like I am so delighted to know that you're out here. Like this is fantastic. And to
Yeah.
have, I think it would be phenomenal for anybody to get to work with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
You're so welcome.
I enjoy helping business owners grow their business and really achieve their vision and their goals, because that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we're in business to make money, sure, but a lot of us are in this because we love what we do and we're trying to make an impact in the world. And I absolutely love helping business owners make that happen. Because it can be pretty disheartening to set these big lofty goals and have these big dreams, and then it just all kind of crumbles and falls apart, and you're like, well, I tried. And then you're like, maybe I should
Yeah,
just go get a corporate job again.
right. Okay,
Like
back to
nobody
LinkedIn.
wants you to go down that path. You don't want to go down that path, or you wouldn't have started your own business. So let's just not go there.
Exactly.
Like, let's get you
Love
the
that.
support that you need. And
Yeah.
whether that's a virtual assistant or someone like myself or whatever, let's, bring in the other side of the brain, and the skill set,
Yeah.
that so you can really flow in what you're good at. And what better feeling
That's,
to be like, I get to be me. I don't have to be
oh
me
man.
and the analytical side, or these other roles that I just don't like doing or don't have time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then it doesn't get done. And then that's a problem.
Yes.
So,
And that's not a
oh,
good
Terry.
feeling to be like, "Ugh, things are falling through the
Yeah.
cracks." And yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
know,
the worst.
like,
You feel like you're juggling. I'm dropping things left and right. Everything's falling down. I can't do this. I have like all the things on my to-do list or things I don't want to do, and I have to do that. We've all
yes.
been there.
And that squashes your creativity and your visionary, quick start brain. It,
Hmm.
reduces your capacity to dream big and see
Yes.
farther, which is what you do so well.
Right, exactly. And then too, in the world of entrepreneurs gone wild, all right, that kind of stuff will keep you inside because you're
Hmm.
like, I've got to get this done. And then it takes so long because you don't want to do it and you're not good at it. So,
Absolutely.
and then you're not outside getting your great ideas and taking
Yes.
care of yourself. So,
I was recently listening to Jasmine Star. She started off as a photographer. I don't know if you've heard of her. And then people started reaching out to her, other photographers, and saying, "How in the world have you gotten so successful?" She's working all around the world, and she did it because she of social media. She was really good at social media, and so she started teaching people how to do social media well, and that has just blown up. I think she's in the seven or maybe even multi seven figures now.
wow.
And she has grown her business. Granted, it has taken many years,
Mhm.
but still, I mean, she's amazing at what she does. And I was listening to a training that she did recently, and she had a really good point. The more that you scale your business, the bigger that it gets, the more thinking time, the more, time you need to be able to reflect
Mm,
on, what has gone well, what needs to change, what
mm,
ideas do I have for the future, where am I headed? Because you may be headed in one direction and that may be fantastic, but there may come a point where you need to pivot,
mhm,
or you feel like, hey, I was headed in this direction, but that's just not really in alignment.
mm,
I thought it was a good idea, but I found out that I actually don't really like doing this. And
mhm,
so, I need to go in a different direction. And so you need that time to think and dream and be a visionary. But if you are juggling all of these things, that reduces significantly the amount of time that you have for that thinking and processing. And getting
Beautiful.
outside is a fantastic way to be able to breathe and think and just have that freedom to let your mind wander.
100%. Well said, man. Teri, thank you so much. This has probably been like one of the most profitable hours that I've spent in a long time. Like, this is phenomenal. I am
Thank
so
you.
glad and so grateful for you for coming in here. And, I think people be nuts not to take you up on that. So,
Thank you. I
but
really
it's
appreciate it.
really, really cool.
If you have questions, anybody in the group, I'm more than happy to, answer those. I put a little post in the event and said, hey, like, what questions do you have? You can just comment on that if you want, or make a separate post. I'll try to keep an eye out for whatever questions you have. I'm willing to help and, be of service and answer what I can.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, we're going to kill the live stream, guys. Let's stay here for a second.
Okay.
It's going to take a few things here. That one. All right. And let's see. Oh, I don't want to end. Okay, well, it's done with that. So let me stop the recording maybe. There we go.